Thank you so much for joining us, Thomas-Driege.
You're most welcome.
Thomas, you're the Managing Director of Focus Cyber Group. You've got 20 years experience in national security, banking and finance, and I'd really like to pick your brain about something that's occurring a lot in the cryptocurrency space. People are being extorted for their cryptocurrency, and people are accessing, hackers are accessing personal data to blackmail, basically, a lot of people in the crypto space. So if you could just explain a little bit about that type of hacking and whether or not it's actually quite prevalent or if there's other things going on.
Okay, so it is quite prevalent, but it's not just against cryptocurrency enthusiasts or people who are investing in that currency. It's happening all around the world with anybody who's got a currency of type that's important to people. Like, for example, last year, the non-Petya ransomware got executed around the world. It was a North Korean-based ransomware, which took some large companies out for several days, very important companies around the world, like the shipping company Maersk. There's a rise now in social engineering-based attacks, and a lot of these attacks are coming in through email and through channels that you would least expect, like Facebook and like other social media platforms, because long gone are the days of your typical email that says, hey, you've won $30 million from your uncle in Nigeria.
Okay. So you said that a lot of these are coming through social media platforms. The reason why we have you on the show is because we're interviewing a young man, CryptoGat. He's quite popular in the crypto space. He has a massive Twitter following of 70,000 people, but the rest, his last name, all these other details about him are actually really quite private. So the only way to have extorted him is to access his social media and his emails. How easy is it if you're nowhere on the internet except social media? How easy is it for this to happen? It seems pretty hard to me, that's all.
It is a hard exercise to do, but because you're out on a public platform and he has 70,000 followers, it's very, very difficult to determine how many of those followers are really very loyal to you when it comes to trying to find information about you. Like, a lot of people can be bribed, can be coerced to provide information, which is just one step closer to crafting an attack against the actual target. And the more followers you have, the more of a target platform you have.
Are you saying that they work on other people in the network, the friends of the target, and then slowly get to the target? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. It's one of the key methods of a social engineering attack. If you can't get to the target, work around the target first and knock all the little fences down before you get to that particular target. And the best way is to hit the network, try and find out who are friends, who are the people who are most commenting on posts, who are the people who are providing posts that are probably a little more familiar with the actual owner of the social media account, instead of just picking people at random. So they gather a lot of intelligence about the social media account and the people and how they're posting, do some analytics on it, and then they've got a target platform they can use to start knocking down those walls.
So are you saying that someone could have betrayed CryptoGat?
It's quite possible. It does happen around the world all the time, every day.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. Is there any other things, any other attacks that are going on at the moment that are up there with this type of attack? And what is this type of attack called?
So this type of attack is called a social engineering-based attack. So instead of attacking the technical attributes of a machine, of your system, it's basically attacking the social network and attacking what they call the layer 8 concept around security now, which is people. Because people are pretty much the weakest link in security, because we're living, breathing people. We can be coerced to do things. We can be taught very bad habits. So it's probably one of the easiest platforms to attack to find out information.
Okay, so basically, moral of the story, don't put much of your stuff on social media?
Exactly. And also be careful who you trust too, or trust a lot.
Okay, and is there anything else that we need to consider? Being on social media all the time, most of us are, some of the things that we need to consider to protect ourselves?
Absolutely. So because of in light of all the Facebook attacks and all the Facebook data breaches that have been in the news for the last few weeks, etc., some of the important things are antivirus, making sure your systems are patched, making sure you harden your computer systems to ensure that only necessary services that you require are turned on, making sure that your computer is looked after like you would look after a baby, because it is fundamentally your tool for business, your tool for investing. And one compromise of that can lead to compromising a whole network of elements you manage in terms of finances, human resources, your personal information. So looking after the machine from a technical level is very important, because it only takes one click on a bad link that looks quite legitimate and attackers can get into your machine that way.
If you don't protect your device, that is also maybe potentially leading to someone else in your network getting hacked. So if we were together to keep all our machines safe and, up to date, then the cybercrime rate would go down because everyone is basically locking their cars.
Absolutely. One of the key things that is not being seen greatly in the cybersecurity industry is true collaboration. Now, there is collaboration, but when we go to our meetups and we talk to each other about things and talk about the latest trends that are occurring in industry. But a true collaboration being that we encourage each other to patch, encourage each other to have antivirus, encourage each other to develop governance around how we manage our systems, where I still believe the cybersecurity industry is very, very siloed, and there's a lot of opinions and a lot of information out there, but that's purely because an organization is providing advice to industry, but not collaborating with everyone else to provide that holistic picture of solving a problem.
Right. Okay. So perhaps rather than continue to attack him, we support by even protecting our own devices and saying, you know what, we don't want this to happen to anybody else. We don't want anyone to be extorted. And then together we all basically just stand there and picket line with our axes and saying we're not going to take it anymore, because it's happening all the time. And it's actually getting frustrating to hear that it keeps happening and people are just like, oh, sorry, I didn't know,
Yeah. So one of the other big things that's happening now around the world is supply chain security. Your supply chain, and even in your Facebook world, the people who are connected to you are part of your next step in the supply chain. And it only takes one attack on you to affect everyone else in the network. Now, it may not directly affect them straight away, but it gives an attacker a platform to start performing reconnaissance on next levels of people that they want to attack, for example.
Is that a little bit like a worm?
Very similar to a worm, not like the traditional ones that were about 10 years ago, but very, very similar concept. So you attack one, then the next one gets attacked, and then the next one gets attacked until it gets to the destination it needs to. And sometimes its destination is to just stay there in an infinite loop, affecting machines forever.
Because I worked at a few years ago and we used MSN Messenger a lot, and I had this picture that came up in my message and I clicked it and everybody in the office was like, oh my God. I had sent this virus to the whole office and the whole call center. The whole call center went down. We had to all get off our computers and we had tech people running all over the place and it's incredibly embarrassing, and I'm putting it out there because that's what I do. But it taught me a massive lesson. Stop clicking. Don't just assume that this is safe. I literally shut down an internet and phone service provider in a second.
Absolutely. One of my biggest rules of thumb with anything to do with computing these days, because everything is happening so quickly, is you need to step away from the problem. You can't just click on things randomly these days, because you have no idea what's being served to you at the enormous speed that it's coming to you now. So best thing is to step back, make a decision, because if you think that clicking on a link is going to cause a problem, you probably already have caused the problem and you don't know it.
Everyone's machines, a quarter of everyone's have malware on them or whatever. So I think perhaps after hearing this interview, everyone should just give their computers a really good look at and a clean up and update their software.
Yeah, and for businesses that are bigger than just one person, sometimes a cybersecurity health check is actually a good thing to have. It's like going to the doctor. It only takes about a half a day to do the assessment and provide a prescription or a report, just as a doctor would, to understand what your current cybersecurity posture is in the organization. And it can be the big difference between knowing what you have and not knowing what you have in the environment, which is either side of the scale of wanting to do something and not doing it for your environment.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas-Driege from Focus Cyber Group. Really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, we'll let you know once it's up.
No, not a problem. It's my pleasure.